For about the cost of the coffee, I can send a small parcel for the 4,000-kilometre journey from Sydney to Perth, the equivalent of Madrid to Moscow. Delivering this service is Australia's longest-running organisation, Australia Post, who in 2013 made the StarTrack business their own. In the same year, Australia Post put in place a strategy to modernise its existing facility on the Sydney CBD fringe suburb of Strawberry Hills to be the headquarters for its StarTrack business. Working with an existing building is often as challenging and exciting as designing a new one. So join me in this edition of NDY TV as we embark on a remarkable journey of transformation. Originally constructed in the 1960s and rebuilt in the early 90s, the structural bones of StarTrack House were such that it made the building ideal for rejuvenation.
With our acquisition of the StarTrack business, we found an excellent time and an ideal opportunity for us to maintain our excellent location in Sydney, as well as redevelop the site through a sale and leaseback and refurbishment program to be able to bring together the Australia Post and StarTrack businesses and further enhance the building to allow for greater collaboration and an agile workspace and provide a modern, sustainable workplace for the future for our workforce.
One of the things that we did when we originally received board approval was we took the board through the building as it was, and when you walked through it you felt like you were back in time, whereas now you feel like you're in the right place.
It was great to be part of a major piece of urban renewal, to take a building that had been slated certainly for complete divestment, but to really rejuvenate it was exciting and make it a really sustainable and vibrant building.
In terms of analysing the building and its potential and its possibilities, whilst we did that from an architectural and design perspective and Australia Post did it from a commercial perspective, the engineers, the builder even was brought on board very early, and the project manager, to understand the nature of the site. The team was sort of ingrained in the project much earlier than would normally be possible.
It was crucial to get the correct team for the works. People that had undertaken this kind of work before, to understand what's involved. With a refurbishment like this, you never uncover everything until you start the works.
A focus on energy efficiency and reduced emissions was central to this refurbishment, so the team set about on a complete overhaul of building services to achieve Australia Post's sustainability aspirations.
It was agreed and committed to by the client right from the get-go that they would seek to bring this old building to a 5-star level, and it's no small feat to do that, and they really invested heavily in that, and the whole team really committed to that process.
From the services point of view, we've implemented very advanced control system into this building, and we are tracking all the energy savings, and we are actually very pleased to see the energy saving beyond our forecast, and the building is actually saving more energy than we've anticipated.
Well, when we first came into the building, the base building and the fit-out systems were very much intertwined, and they operated holistically as one system. So from a base building and building owners' perspective, they really wanted the ability to separate the tenant away and put them into their own dedicated space. That gives the tenant a lot more flexibility in terms of future moves, changes and additions, and it also means the tenant doesn't need to go into the base building spaces to make any modifications. It keeps it nice and clean and allows the building to operate much more efficiently.
The main design consideration in achieving the Green Star and Neighbours rating is the fact that we are working on an existing building. In existing building, unlike in a new building, there are existing infrastructure that we need to work on. By getting to know the building, investigate the building early on, we know the challenges and also the potential that the building offers. So our design strives to compensate the challenges and take the full potential of the building to achieve our targeted energy rating.
In the year 2000, we set ourselves a really ambitious target of reducing our carbon emissions by 25% by the year 2020 on the year 2000 base. That's a really ambitious target. StarTrack House has already started contributing to this target, and on our base year in 2012 we've had over 40% reduction in electricity and gas and water usage within the building, and that's with an increase of people occupying the building of over 25%, so fantastic results already for StarTrack House.
Sustainability goes well beyond just a feel-good factor or a philosophy, and it really is central to risk management. As far as real estate, it's a long-term investment, and obviously what's crucial in terms of this investment in StarTrack House is making sure that the asset is future-proof for the long term. Certainly all the sustainability initiatives that be undertaken here are central to ensuring the building is future-proofed.
Hidden on the roof of StarTrack House is one of the most significant achievements. The solar panels, roughly 100 times the size of an average Australian home installation, are capable of reducing base building electrical load by 25% at peak times.
One of the unique aspects of this building is the rooftop solar power installation. It's one of the largest installations of its type in Australia. More importantly, it generates 370 megawatts of electricity per annum, and very importantly that's a saving of 350 tonnes of CO2 per annum.
In order to meet the sustainability targets, a large photovoltaic array was required. It was crucial that we had to maximise the use or the potential of all the roof space that we had in order to achieve those targets. This posed a number of challenges, including the fact that we didn't have enough horizontal space to physically fit the quantity of panels that we required. We ended up using vertical space as well. This helped maximise the potential of the existing building and all of its roof space.
Additional exterior initiatives, including the facade upgrade, have significantly improved the energy performance of the building.
In terms of the sustainability objectives for the building, we really focused on the facade and the upgrades, both from a visual perspective and its architectural setting, but importantly the thermal efficiency of the facade.
We were able to work with the client and the consultant team to upgrade the facade whilst the client stayed in situ by using swinging stages, detailed methodologies and an open communication to allow the facade to be upgraded whilst people stayed in the building.
The facade was replaced over a 15-minute period for each panel. We would advise the tenants each week what area of the building would be utilised.
The glass is actually imported and we had to order that glass from our shop drawings rather than site measure. We had to always consider egress for staff and clients, and we also had to consider that there was always a secure line at all times.
Achieving the highest standards of quality for a refurbishment of this size and scale and ensuring the building remained fully occupied and operational required a cohesive and coordinated approach.
We're really proud of the fact that we managed to undertake the full refurbishment while the building was fully occupied with several Australia Post business units as well as external tenants, one of which that operated 24/7. So our communication strategy for the project was key to what we were trying to undertake here at Australia Post.
The website that was set up that gave people a heads up on what was happening the following week as the project progressed became more and more valuable. They knew what was happening. That was key in ensuring that there was far less complaints through just sheer misunderstanding. And I think that that transparency was one of the key components of the project.
While the works were undertaken, there was a massive amount of communication that was undertaken through various mediums, not just through newsletters and emails, but also through some video conferencing and social interaction through social media.
There was a very keen focus on engagement, the working groups, various team leads, with information flowing backwards and forwards. We also had to remember that we were refurbing the entire building, which has other tenants throughout the building. And we spoke to them about when various pieces of work were being done.
Collaboration was extremely important because what we had to do is consider the occupant who would tenant the building throughout the life of the design and construct process. So we had to be mindful of their working environment while also upgrading the building in accordance with the goals for the project. And that included sequencing the works, so moving the tenant about the building while we upgraded certain parts.
And create what is now a very highly recognised and award-winning building, and of course the whole time we were able to do that in a building that was a very busy, active, live site. So that took a huge amount of effort with the architects, with our many advisors such as NDY, with the builders. We were able to create something I think quite special and quite unique.
The space created by the design team is open and connected both physically and visually, encouraging people to interact and foster working relationships.
Infusing the space with natural light and maximising the asset of both light and view was key from the onset. Every decision around the work floors sort of tied back to making sure that we got as deep penetration of light as possible We took the approach of breaking that floor plate down into different neighbourhoods, and that allowed there to be some level of scale around community. We've been able to plan in a manner where all occupants sit within 8 metres of the perimeter.
Now, with the low dividers, no offices and very much that open plan, you see people interacting, talking together and actually just working more closely and more collaborative. You've got far more natural light, it's far more open. People seem more relaxed and happier. Because of the way it's set up with technology, the flexibility has just made people feel that little bit more relaxed.
Part of our design strategy was very much to bring a retail hub to the ground floor entry foyer space and to really activate the atrium. And you can see even today that it's a really successful space.
That interior very much is a transition between that external atrium space through to that foyer area, and has really opened that whole area out, so it's really a pretty seamless transition from inside to out.
You've got the communal breakout spaces, all of the meeting rooms are being used, all of the breakout spaces are being used. There's a energy in the building now and within the tenancies that you didn't have before.
It's not only the way that Australia Post staff interact with the building and use the facilities, but it's also the tenants, where they use the seminar facilities on the ground floor, the way that visitors interact with the foyer, and the way that members of the public use our cafeteria and foyer area. It's a fantastic building, and the way that it's used by everybody is really pleasing.
We moved away from a traditional office-based environment to very much open plan, and that really enabled a much greater collaboration, sharing, innovation, and of course much greater connectivity, which at the end of the day is what the Australia Post and StarTrack business is all about.
The business of Australia Post is all about connecting people and supporting them with their communication needs. The refurbishment achieved here at StarTrack House encourages connections both within the building and the surrounding community. An outcome so successful, it deservedly gets the stamp of approval